So a guy walks into a tavern, a drifter, and he sits down at the bar, and the barkeep says, "What do you have?" And the guy says, "Well, I don't have any money, but if, I can entertain you, and if you give me a bottle of whiskey." And the barkeep says, "Well, I have to see the entertainment before I can offer you a bottle of whiskey, so here's a shot, and we'll see how it goes as far as you getting the bottle." And so the drifter takes the shot, reaches into his vest pocket, and he pulls out a foot-tall man and a piano. The tiny guy sits down at the tiny piano, and he starts playing Camptown Races. Does a great job at it. And the barkeep, claps. He's astonished. He hands the guy the bottle of whiskey, and he says, "Where'd you get that?" He says, "I'll give you $1,000 for that little guy in the tiny piano." And the guy goes, "No, he's not for sale, but I have this magic lamp here where I got it. If you rub the lamp, you can get one wish. You give me $100, you can rub the lamp and get your wish." And so the bartender hands him $100, rubs the lamp, genie pops out, and the barkeep says, "I'd like $1 million." And poof, all of a sudden the bar is filled with all the ducks you could imagine. They're all over the bar, they're outside the bar, they're all over the town, basically. 1 million ducks. And the barkeep looks at the genie and says, "What, are you deaf? I said $1 million, not 1 million ducks." And the drifter looks at the barkeep and says, "Come on, brother. You really think I asked for a 12-inch pianist?" Welcome to Kingdom of Honor. This is your host, Zanman Shane Sabunya, along with my good buddy, Honorable Jeff. My point in telling that story is, first of all, I love a good story joke. But secondly, it's a lot like watching WWE, isn't it? If you turn into WWE expecting to watch professional wrestling, you're going to get something close to it, but not quite the same. And unfortunately, more and more, I feel like we get the exact same thing watching NXT, even on the takeovers, as we do, as what WWE offers as opposed to actual professional wrestling.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
That's
unusual.
Guys,
if you're on the air.
If you're listening, well, because we started late, so you could ask. When things go bad, they just seem to keep going bad.
Indeed.
So there's that.
So I was as I was trying to get you back on the air, I was just giving everybody our Twitter handles so we can skip that part later on in the show, possibly.
Possibly, we'll see.
So,
but I don't know where I cut out. But again, thanks for listening.
As soon as you started talking.
Oh, did I really? Wonderful. So, if you guys, we're live on Spreaker, we're live on lordsofpainradio.net. We're also live on YouTube. If you are listening to us on YouTube, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and I swear to you, if I go offline again, I'm going to lose my... Nope. Okay, good. So, yeah, go ahead and hit those buttons, because we are live at least twice a week with Kingdom of Honor on Tuesday and on Wednesdays after AEW Dynamite with Dynamite After Dark. And then this week, we were live yesterday, and we'll be live again tomorrow discussing Watchmen. So... now I got that out of the way. Now for the...
Wait. We're discussing Watchmen tomorrow?
No, not tomorrow. Last week.
I got confused. That's what you just said.
Okay. Yesterday and then next week. So, but yeah, this was not a very good show. It just really wasn't. There were two excellent matches. There was a third that was on its way to an excellent match until it got way overbooked at the end. A heel turn, which I don't know if it's really a heel turn because they're trying to do something that we've already seen, but I think they're trying to do it because they think they have a new audience. I don't know. It was just, and then screaming and yelling from the announcers. It's not good. What happened to the NXT that we love so much?
It's become WWEized.
Oh, it's terrible. It's really, really bad.
It really is. And I don't know if we're going to agree on the excellent status of the matches, but let's talk about the one I think you were just talking about. So I watched the main event of Takeover Portland, and I was watching it, and it started off, and I was like, this feels a lot like The Rock versus Triple H.
Yep.
Just the outside stuff going on, the brawling and not necessarily in a bad way, not necessarily a good way either. Just kind of like it felt like had like a retro feel to it, and it was it was good. And then they kind of rolled it into the ring, and they had the NXT style going for a while, but then it just, like you said, it never really got into a gear that I could really appreciate it at. I mean, I think they tried to. I think they tried to blend that stuff all together, but I'm not sure that it worked quite. And then, we get the overbooked stuff at the end where once again, Adam Cole can only beat somebody if the entire Undisputed Era helps him.
Right.
And now on top of that, not just the Undisputed Era, because that's what it took for him to be able to overcome Johnny Gargano, right?
Right.
No, in this case, it has to be Johnny Gargano himself. Actually, is the guy that finishes off Tommaso Ciampa. And I realized these guys got their WrestleMania weekend feud or match robbed from them last year, and so they're probably trying to do a make good with it. But at the same time, so all of a sudden, after having a fantastic tag match against Mustache Mountain less than a month ago, these guys are going to be at odds again just because who knows what the hell reason is.
Because they need to overbook WrestleMania. That's literally all it is. They need to get everybody in what they feel is the hottest feuds, but the problem is this feud isn't hot anymore. There's no way they're going to get this feud anywhere near the level that it was 2 years ago. And we have it was the feud of the year. It was probably one of the best feuds of all time. The first time when Ciampa turned on him, you had over a year of booking to make it one of the hottest feuds ever. And even through that story of, is Johnny going to turn heel? He can't win the big one without Ciampa, blah, blah, blah. They're tag teams. He turns on him. They have the making of another great blow-off feud. But since Ciampa has been back and Ciampa's not the evil bastard that he was when he left, the feud is just not going to have the same fire, because you can't. In this feud, Johnny is the good guy. Johnny will always be the good guy because he's the one with grit and heart and determination and the heart of NXT and all this stuff. And now when you put him in a position where he's now going to be the heel, but is anybody going to cheer against him against Tommaso Ciampa? Against Aleister Black, yes, people would have cheered against him. Against Ricochet, yes, but not against Ciampa.
And that's the thing you're saying. Ciampa isn't a babyface. He's a tweener. He's an anti-hero. But the crowd loves him. The crowd chants "Daddy" for him.
Mm-hmm.
He is the crowd's daddy. I guess is a crazy way to put it.
Right.
I don't see this at all. And Gargano all of a sudden is just gonna, after having the friend stuff going on, and Ciampa being pissed off at Balor for taking away months of his career and taking away his takeover streak, and now all of a sudden, so now Gargano's gonna turn on Ciampa. I don't buy it.
There's no reason for it.
It's gonna be a really hard sell to try to get me to believe it. And now in a month, like you said, in a month and a half, they're supposed to build up the heat that they had going into last year's WrestleMania. I just don't think it's going to work.
When Ciampa originally turned on Johnny, it was one of the most despicable things anybody's ever done, and he was rightfully the biggest villain in wrestling at the time. When Johnny turned on Ciampa last year, was right before this time, wasn't it? Because it was his neck injury happened around, and then Johnny turned on him. and they blamed the neck injury on
Yeah, I want to see it
Johnny.
happen in December or January. Yeah.
I think it was right around this time, like February-ish, because they were supposed to have their big match at WrestleMania weekend. That ended up going to Cole and Johnny for the vacant title. But they, even then, when Johnny turned on him, there was still enough heat left because of a 1.5 year long story. This time around, we're now a year removed from that. We've had nothing since October except those two being friends. There was no rhyme or reason to this. There was nothing, and the way that the announcers, especially Ronaldo, tried to, as soon as Johnny grabbed the belt, he's like, "Oh, wait a minute, these guys don't like each other." Say, wait, shut up, just shut up. This makes no sense. And then to have the fact that he battled through everything he went through, and Johnny hits him with the belt, so that keeps him down. And it's not. I mean, they can explain it in a way if Johnny had jumped up in the ring and was standing, in front of Ciampa, looking like he was going to hit Cole, and then the last second he turned around, then okay, Ciampa could have been shocked. But Ciampa was literally staring at Johnny, expecting to get hit, and when he does, that knocks him out for the 3 count after everything else he'd been through. It was horribly booked. It was a horrible turn. There was nothing good about it. I did not. The ending of NXT, and I didn't understand because I didn't watch it until later, but when you sent me a text as soon as it ended saying they just jumped the shark, I saw it today and I'm like, oh yeah, they did. That was just bad. Just bad booking.
Well, when I said they jumped the shark was actually when Cole hit the Panama Sunrise on the outside, and then he hit the running knee strike in the back of the head on the inside, and then Ciampa kicked out. I was like, nope, jump the shark.
Yeah, Ciampa could kick out of that, but he can't kick out of a little tiny smack to the head by a gold belt.
And honestly, like, if Gargano is going to turn on him, wouldn't it make a lot more sense to do the way that Kevin Owens did to Sami Zayn? Ciampa overcomes everything, gets the title. Maybe Gargano even helps him get the title. And then Gargano comes in and just punks out Ciampa at that point, setting up a title feud between the two of them with Gargano as the challenger again. But this time, as the bad guy because he's ruined Ciampa's moment. Well, I really don't understand, why you would want to rob him of winning the championship when you get yourself a shot at being the champion again.
And that's explainable. That's where I could buy into Johnny turning on him, because Johnny wanted to prove that he could beat him for the title last year, and Johnny got robbed of that goal. And for Ciampa to get his rightful belt back because he never lost it, and then Johnny to turn on him to set up that Wrestle Kingdom or that WrestleMania weekend moment, and actually have Johnny go over at that moment to become, the dirtbag champion or whatever, that all would have made sense. This doesn't, because what are they fighting for now? They're not fighting for the title. They're not even really fighting for pride because they were just best friends a week ago. We've been talking.
And how could they? And where did this Where did this vitriol come from Gargano? We could see here why Ciampa might be confused and angry and pissed off, maybe even hate Gargano at this point for taking away Goldie again.
Right.
But where does it come? Where did this turn come from Gargano?
This is what we talked about with MJF, and then having a bad, unexplainable heel turn. Granted, we saw MJF's coming for months and months, but in all reality, there really wasn't a reason for him to turn. He just did it. And even now, even in all his explanations, there's never been...
And I will still say he never turned.
No, because he was always a slimy heel, and I get your point, but the reality is that we've never really gotten a reason for it. And I don't feel like we're ever going to get a reason for it again. As far as heel turns go, this was terrible. This was right up there with how bad I thought that one was. And then we saw how to do a heel turn recently in NXT with Dakota Kai. So I don't understand how they can get it so right with Dakota Kai and so wrong with Johnny Gargano.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I can say about, this heel turn is at least he didn't bite the back of Ciampa's neck.
Thank God. Yeah, we had enough of that this week. We're also looking at, as long as we're still on negative, that was a negative. And the other, I thought the women's match was terrible. Not the street fight, the other one, Belair and Rhea Ripley. Again, I thought it
wasn't terrible, but it was a mediocre with an ending that came out of nowhere.
Well, that's just it. It's a match based on two power people who are not using their power but are using it. It was a weird bit of storytelling. There was another match too where the storytelling just didn't make any sense that I literally just watched. Was it that tag match?
I fucking hated the tag match.
Where
I hated it.
The tag match.
I hated it.
The tag match in NXT where they just it was a terrible match. First of all, the storytelling was absolutely brutal. What was the point of constantly having miscues by Matt Riddle and Pete Dunne if there was not going to be a payoff or have that even factor into anything that happened in the match? They consistently had miscues, but nothing came of it, and they still overcame the odds and won the titles. It's just the amount of miscues that they had.
Wait. Did they overcome the odds?
Because, no, they didn't, because it was lackluster to begin with.
Because in my opinion, Red Dragon is the best tag team on the planet.
Right.
We've gone over this. They're my favorite tag team. I think they're one of the greatest tag teams in the last 10 years. I think they're absolutely phenomenal together. And they're great, and they've been dominant tag team champions in NXT. But if you watch this match, did you see any of that? No.
There were a few moments where they kind of shone, but very, very, very few, and nothing like it should have been. We started the match
at least 5 times. Pete Dunne or Matt Riddle completely dominated Red Dragon.
Yeah.
Not them combined, but one or the other. It would be a situation where Red Dragon had the corner had the ring cut off, and they were double teaming, but yet one of these two superheroes was able to completely fight off two of the greatest technical wrestlers on the planet.
It started off with one of you.
As a fan of indie wrestling for years, as a fan of Red Dragon for years, following their careers, even following just their time in NXT, the match was completely unbelievable to me.
This takeover, and I'm going to get back to my point here, but this takeover proved to me why we made the right decision in following AEW. And don't get me wrong, AEW does have some downfalls when it's coming to their weekly television, but in all reality, AEW is still giving us fantastic wrestling matches every single week. And we'll get to more of that later, but this match was earmarked as being dog shit from the moment that they rode out in their little golf cart and stood up and started talking about frying fish. And a bit that just went on way, way, way too long. Made absolutely no sense. That's not the Matt Riddle that we've come to know. I mean, yeah, he's during this little tag team run. They played the, Pete Dunne being the straight man, and Riddle being the dumbass, and they've kind of played off each other, and it's been humorous. But that little corny shtick is something that was rocked circa 1996 before he became actually good on the mic. It was terrible, and got the whole match into a bad mood.
Yeah, also, what have we talked about a couple of times over the last few months? When we see somebody get ridiculed like that, they should be the guys that somehow find a way to win the match. And instead, Red Dragon, Bobby Fish got completely ridiculed, and his team, like you said, there was those miscues in the match between the other team. There obviously wasn't the synchronicity, and yet somehow the two disparate wrestlers who made fun of the other team find a way to win.
And I get it. I get it.
I don't know when Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly have come off looking so bad since they joined NXT. Since they joined NXT like 2.5 years ago. It was ridiculous.
This is the worst they've ever looked. Absolute worst. It was terrible. Absolutely terrible. And they looked and it almost felt like, and now I'm going to get on the other real hatred part of this entire card, but it almost looked like Morrow was spending so much time building up them and their credentials. Oh, they've been a tag team for over 10 years, and they've been one of the most decorated tag teams in wrestling, and all this stuff, talking about their New Japan and all that. It almost felt like he was doing that, because I've never heard them really talk about, they have briefly, they brought it up about how they've been a tag team forever, but not like this. It was almost like he was trying to oversell how great Red Dragon is to make the other two look better because they beat him.
Yeah. And what have we said over and over? Tell us, show us, don't tell us.
Right.
And instead, and so instead they decided to tell us that, and they're showing us Red Dragon looking like complete jokes against Riddle or Dunn.
If they had talked about Red Dragon like that in all of their matches, talking about how great they are together, their chemistry, how they've been together and partners forever, and so on, I would have been a little more okay with the amount of talking about they did in this match, but it just felt like they were force-feeding us how great these guys are. And then, to get on the absolute worst thing that is making it so hard for me to watch NXT is Mauro Ranallo. Oh my God! I swear to God, there was one point where if I had heard him scream "Mamma Mia" one more time, I was going to shut off my TV and never watch NXT again. His feigned enthusiasm, where he forces his references. At one point he called out Barry Horowitz. It's like, just, Morrow, calm the fuck down and stop talking. Just stop talking.
Yeah, that was actually when Nigel McGuinness turned it around on Dune and Riddell.
Yeah.
And said, how many legs could Bobby Fish break if Bobby Fish could break legs?
Right.
And
I love the fact too. Sorry to cut in here, but I love the fact that after Morrow made his screw up with the by referring, he's what caused Nigel to start calling him Pete Dune, because he made some stupid reference that made absolutely no sense, and I think Nigel picked up on it and was just trying to make fun of him by calling him Pete Dune for how long? He did it for what? Good 2-3 minutes, called him Pete Dune, until Morrow had to jump on and say, no, Nigel, it's Dunn, not Dune.
Well, I know you haven't been following NXT really, but actually that's something that the Undisputed Era have been doing too, is calling them Dune and Riddell.
Okay, all right, that makes sense too. But there was one, like, he made a movie reference to the movie Dune, and it was kind of it stuck out because it was so just not supposed to be there. And as soon as he did it, that was when I just started calling him Dune too.
And honestly, one should never wrestle. One should never reference the movie Dune.
Ever. And when Morrow did it, I don't even know for sure if he did it, but he started talking about the spices on the mountain, and that was a Dune reference.
So let's talk about an actual good match on this show. A match that I thought, was heading into remarkable territory, and that is the best Johnny Gargano match we've seen and maybe the best Finn Balor match we've ever seen.
Oh, it was the best
Finn Balor versus Johnny Gargano.
It was the best Finn Balor match ever. Especially in
Well,
his
his match against
WWE.
Samoa Joe a couple of WrestleMania weekends ago was really good too. That's why I said I'm not sure. It's one of them for sure.
I think from the moment he signed with NXT, I felt like this was the best match I've seen him have. Yes, that Samoa Joe match was amazing, but I never felt like it was on the level that this one was. This one, and a lot of that give credit to Johnny too, because Johnny plays so good is so good at playing that comfort behind. He's basically playing the old Finn Balor role. That was Finn Balor when he was originally with NXT.
Yeah, it's just that Johnny fits more comfortably into that role than Balor ever did.
Right.
So,
But
Johnny has an actual personality that shines through as a baby face, whereas Balor is much better in the heel role.
Yeah, and he always has been back to his Bullet Club days. He's never been a good. He doesn't have that. He's got resting bitch face, and you can't be a baby face and have resting bitch face. You just can't.
Correct.
But I felt like that. I felt like that might have been the best match on the night. It's a toss-up though, because that opening match was amazing too.
We'll talk about that in a bit.
Okay.
But yeah, Balor and Gargano, I felt like they both were the best versions of each other. Gargano. My problem with Gargano over the last years, excluding the Ciampa feud, has just been, way too much finisher kick out overkill, too many quote unquote false finishes. Where, as in this one, it was just to me like a perfect blend of his counter wrestling with the aggression of Finn Balor's new character, and I felt it was just a really remarkable special wrestling match between the two of them, complete with Gargano's heart and determination and his never say die attitude getting killed by the shotgun dropkick into the barricade. Because once that happened, he was dead.
Yeah.
And I guess that might be something he brings up this coming Wednesday, tomorrow night. I said NXT is he fought back from the injury. He came back to get revenge on Balor, and he failed.
Yeah,
and now he needs to get his revenge on somebody else.
And see, that's another reason why I feel like his move on Ciampa was ill-timed, because the story with him and Balor is not over yet. Not until he gets his victory. And they have so much more, so many more places they could go with that story. With Balor just dogging him for taking the loss, that he's really not up to his level, and Johnny being Johnny and fighting back and eventually getting his win. That's another reason why this turn on Ciampa makes no sense, because now you've shut down what could be a great promo and could actually make Finn Balor, the star that everybody already seems to think he is. And they just literally shut it down for nothing. Now where does Balor go?
Well, I think that's always going to change dance partners. It's going to be Balor against Cole at Takeover Tampa.
Ugh, I hate it.
Absolutely. I do too, because it's an anti-hero against an anti-hero. I mean, Cole should be a heel, but the crowd cheers him like he's a babyface, and he's got that fighting spirit, and he. Right, but he's also got but he also has shown that fighting spirit, where he's willing to fight anybody. So what is there really to boo about Adam Cole other than his attitude?
Right, and that's he all of Undisputed Era is that same way. They're just all anti-heroes, and they always have been, or they have been at least since Roderick Strong joined them. And
I said this in 2016 about Adam Cole is he can never be a true heel, because what does he do every time he comes out there?
The Adam Cole baby, and the boom in the middle of their song, and they've got so many chant-along, crowd-pleasing moments in their entrances and their theme music and their just little things they do in the ring that they remind me a lot of LIJ, and if you want to even go back further, DX, where there's so much to like about them that even though they're heels, you still find yourself cheering for them.
Yeah, speaking of their kind of crowd pleasing antics, I laughed out loud actually when the double stomp to the hands happened to Kyle O'Reilly and Beth Phoenix
Yep.
said, "Oh no, his air guitar career is over."
Yeah, that made me laugh too. The one thing that there was another part of that match. You just brought up another part. The match where he stomped on Bobby Fish's hands and then went to kick him and straight kicked the ring post. Don't you think that would have, I don't know, maybe made him limp for a little bit? I did not like the no selling in this anywhere on this card except for the first match. But even in Johnny's match, the no selling really stuck out because that's one thing that Johnny's been good at ever since his entire career, since I first started watching him before he started DIY, was his selling was always impeccable. And even this match against Finn Balor, that's my only real negative about it. And the only thing keeping it from being a 5-star match is the fact that Johnny's leg was supposedly basically broken, yet after that initial leg spot, he really shook it off and was flying and running around the ring like nothing was bothering him. He didn't show one single part the rest of the match about his leg being a problem.
Yeah, you and I had Matt Jackson as our Wrestler of the Year for 2018. But we also saw an incredible sell performance by his brother at Dominion 2018.
Right.
When he did a similar move to what Pete Dunne did, with kicking the ring post and LIJ working that over for the rest of the match. So I would recommend that Pete Dunne and Johnny Gargano go back and watch that incredible tag match from Dominion 2018 and watch Nick Jackson, who, according to critics out there, has no psychology.
Right.
Show them how to sell a leg injury.
But now, is that on them or is that on the WWE style booking? Because these are two guys who know how to sell. It's what's made them two of my favorites over the last 3 or 4 years. Pete Dunne and Johnny Gargano have basically lived and died by their selling prowess. And for both of these guys who have just been incredible, best in the world type wrestlers over the last couple of years, to just all of a sudden forget to sell on the same show. I'm starting to wonder
I think they're very good at selling, exhaustion and fatigue and being down. I don't know that they're necessarily fantastic at selling a specific body part being injured.
Well, they've done it before. That's all I'm saying. And for both of them to just not even bother with it in this card makes me wonder if it was more of the bookers overbooking the matches. Because this show was not NXT. This show was not.
So are you suggesting this is like a house? We keep talking over each other now. We must have like bad timing here, or a little bit of a delay. But so are you suggesting that the no selling aspect is kind of a house style that NXT is promoting these days?
I think it's a WWE style that's been going on for almost 2 decades, and I think that WWE style has now moved down to NXT because NXT is becoming a brand and not a performance center anymore. I think Triple H doesn't have his hands in it as much as everyone was hoping he still would, and they're starting to overbook matches. This was the worst booked show I've seen by NXT ever.
You mean like how there was another remarkable match on this card between 2 women who were beating the hell out of each other, and yet it gets ended by somebody we've never even heard of before?
And who nobody, even the 2 wrestlers, knew why she was there? Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I mean, I loved that match. I mean, but the ending of it, like you said, like the no selling in this one, take it away from being a 5-star match. The finish to the women's street fight would have me going, what? Huh? What? And Dakota Kai saying exactly the same thing, and the announcers all saying the same thing, made me go, okay, that was a 5-star match until you did that.
Well, not just that, but here's another match where somebody has waited now for months and months and months to get their revenge, and what happens? They didn't get their revenge. So in back-to-back revenge grudge matches, the person that should have gotten the win didn't, and why? They pretty much ended the...
You know what? Speaking of that match, that's another match that Dunn and Gargano can watch to see how to sell a leg injury.
Right, exactly. Because they both sold those leg injuries. Yeah, they both sold the hell out of those. But I mean, there too.
I mean, Kai could barely stand at the end of that thing.
But I mean, there too. Now we've got two matches with no definitive ending. One of them they've just kind of washed under the rug and they're moving on to a different story. The other one, I don't know what's going on. Does Dakota Kai have backup now? And if she does, why? She never needed backup. It was still just between her and Tegan. It made no sense. It was another ending that just made no sense.
Well, she hasn't necessarily needed backup, but at the same time, she has the entire women's division hating her.
Well, yeah.
You know, it's been, she's right, rightfully so. But I mean, she's had Tegan Knox and Johnny Gargano's wife. Can't think of her name at the moment. Candice LeRae, and Mia Yim all gunning for her. So, 3 out of the 4 members of that team have all been gunning for her. A little bit of backup is probably kind of welcome on her part.
But maybe she should have, I don't know, to make the story make a little more sense, maybe she should have recruited the backup instead of having just somebody who nobody knows anything about just show up and, oh, we now know her because the announcer said her name.
Yeah, and apparently she was in one of the women's Mae Young Classics, or whatever they're called. I've neither, but I watched either. So,
I don't know this lady. I have no clue who she is. No clue at all.
Me neither. I guess we'll find out.
I hope. No, I won't. I won't be finding out. I'm not watching another second of NXT unless they can sell the hell out of WrestleMania weekend. This might have been my final straw on NXT, because that was the one thing that was keeping me an NXT fan was the fact that they were not going down this WWE style of overbooking everything and making nothing make sense. And not only did they do that in every single match, except for the first one, but in every single match, they overbooked the hell out of everything. They took the best parts of my favorite wrestlers and just kind of swept them under the rug, so now they're not even doing what I've fallen in love with them for doing. And we had to listen to Mauro Ranallo and Beth Phoenix scream over each other for 3 hours, because they also went away from their normal NXT formula of 5 matches and threw 6 on here, and made it a 3-hour show. So for 3 hours, I had to listen.
That's a big brand because it's on Sunday nights instead of Saturday nights.
Yeah, they took everything that I loved about NXT, added 2 people who love to scream and hear their voices, and now it's just unwatchable garbage to me. Which is sad, because it was a brand that I really loved, and some of my favorite wrestlers are in it. Dunn, Gargano, Ciampa, Cole, Red Dragon, Roderick Strong. I mean, these aren't Shayna Baszler. These are my favorite wrestlers on the planet, and they just literally took these people away from me. It feels a lot like what WWE did to AJ Styles, and made it so that I couldn't watch him anymore either.
Yeah, and the thing is, this is kind of a rough switch for you, but I mean, I think that it's been a gradual for me, where even starting like with the takeovers this past summer, I was starting to kind of sour on what they've been doing. So
once they hit TV.
But I definitely think it's been more pronounced since they hit the network, since they hit USA Network.
Yeah, once they hit TV, a weekly national TV, that's kind of when it started to go south. In the last 2 takeovers, which is weird because War Games was still so great. And I'm so afraid that they're going to end up doing this to NXT UK too.
Yeah, well, even they're already doing it. They're already planning another show that April 26th, I think, is the next NXT UK takeover.
Yeah, in Dublin. But even when Worlds Collide was a fantastic show. I don't know how in less than a month they were able to screw it up, so now it's just not even slightly good anymore.
Well, I would say it was slightly good. I think the show had 3 major negatives And, well, two major negatives, one negative. No, okay. Two major negatives, one right in the middle, then three that were good. So, I mean, it still overall is going to get a little bit of a thumbs up from me, but it still wasn't. I don't feel like I wasted 3 hours, but I do kind of feel like it wasn't the takeover quality that we're used to.
I felt like the first three matches were fantastic. I have nothing negative to say about the opening match. I thought Keith Lee and Dominic, with the exception of some of their with the exception of the announcers, I don't have anything negative to say about that. I felt like their no selling was perfect for the feud that they've had, and I love the fact that two people that spent 15, 20 minutes no selling, it was Dijakovic selling his injury at the end that kind of cost him the match.
I love that too. I've still got it in like the 4.25 range, so it's not like I hated it.
Right.
But one thing I've said about NXT is that I feel like it's been too choreographed.
Right.
And at the very beginning of this match, like the first 5 or 6 minutes, I kind of felt like these guys were just kind of going through the motions of the dance that they were set. Like they were moving kind of slowly. Everything was too precise. Everything was too, okay, you go there, I go here, there go. And then once they got into the emotion of the match, rolling, and they got into the flow, it was absolutely, like you said, fantastic. It was just like that first few opening moments, I felt like it was just too scripted.
I kind of chopped that up to, I don't want to say big stage jitters, because really these are two people that have been on that big stage, but they've never been in such a high profile match. And with the two previous matches, they had a lot, three previous matches, they had a lot to live up to. So I kind of just blew that off as, okay, we're just kind of getting into it. But once they got into it, I thought the match was amazing. One thing about those two that I've always liked is that for two people that sell really well against others, they don't sell for each other. And they just stand there and they take a beating. And I love the psychology of at the ending when they spend this entire match, no selling and no selling and no selling, and then all of a sudden he starts selling and it costs him the match. I just love that ending. The Ronaldo and Beth Phoenix are pretty much the only thing that ruined that match for me. Otherwise, I absolutely love that match. The women's match was great. Everything about it I loved. Oh, go ahead.
I just want to comment on the ending of the match too, because I thought it was fantastic that they're hitting each other with the biggest bombs that they have.
Right.
And Dijakovic's back has been injured through the course of this match, and he's hit him with everything else he has. He even hit him with a goddamn somersault, moonsault, twisting somersault moonsault at the top. Basically a spiral tap from the top rope. But instead of landing in a pinning formation, he can't finish off Lee. He hits him with a DVD from the top rope. He still can't finish him off. And so finally he has to go to his finishing move. He has no other choice. And yet, but going for that move, like you said, is what ends up costing him the match. So, he can't get a victory without it, but he loses because of it. Right. Just absolutely a fantastic way to finish the match.
Yeah, I just thought it was great. And the women's match too was like you said, that was on the way to 5-star territory. Even despite the horrible announcing, was on its way to a 5-star territory until that ending. The Gargano Balor match is the best Balor match I've ever seen. It was up there as far as Johnny goes, but the whole no selling of his leg for the last half of the match, that really hurt it. And then the last 3 matches were just so poorly done that I loved Ciampa Cole for the first 15 minutes of it, and then it started to get so overbooked that I just couldn't. It was hard to watch, tough to watch. The women's title match, there was just nothing I liked about it. And then that tag match was just an embarrassment from the moment Matt Riddle opened his mouth.
They talked about on the show how phenomenal the women's division is in NXT, and I have to agree with them. I mean, Shayna Baszler's moved on now, but you still got Rhea Ripley, you still got Bianca Belair, who I know you hate, but is still very talented.
It's not that I hate her.
you
Yeah. She's very talented. I respect her in ring ability. Her character doesn't click with me. So I'd prefer to not see her.
You've got Candice LeRae, you've got Tegan Knox, you got Dakota Kai. Why can't I think of what one I called the AJ Styles of the women's division now?
Io Shirai.
Yeah, Io Shirai. But I am so happy that the person that you and I hated won the women's Royal Rumble. It no longer matters that she won the women's Royal Rumble.
No.
Because now she's back in NXT, and the real person that should have won the women's Royal Rumble is going to get the Raw Women's title shot at WrestleMania.
Yeah, but I guess it doesn't matter because if they keep putting out crap, I'm sure I'll still, I'm bitter about it now, but I know the next big show I'll end up watching it and I'll end up hating Mauro Ranallo again, and but I'm not going out of my way for NXT anymore. Not like I was. They've kind of hit the back burner like Ring of Honor and definitely like WWE has. I mean, WWE is not even on the stove anymore, but NXT and Ring of Honor have really hit the back burners. They're just not.
I really don't understand why they're even bothering doing a takeover Tampa. And the reason I say that is because don't you feel like they'd be much better off just following what New Japan did this year and having a 2-day WrestleMania, just splitting the card between the NXT, SmackDown, and Raw stars on both shows?
The funny part is they already have that time in just WrestleMania. WrestleMania alone last year pushed 9 hours. They could just split what they already had in WrestleMania and make it a whole weekend. And that was the one thing I was afraid of.
But what I was saying is, they could easily have 2 nights of WrestleMania, including the NXT brand, rather than having an NXT show and a WWE show.
Right. Yeah, and I agree. I'd much rather see that. At least maybe let's put 3 hours on one night, 4 hours on the next, or something. But I'm really scared for WrestleMania weekend. It's going to end up being like a 20-hour show. With the way that they pushed everything in NXT and what they're setting up and everything, I feel like NXT Takeover is going to end up being a 4 to 5 hour show with pre-show, and then of course we're going to have the 8-9 hours of WrestleMania, probably closer to 10 hours of WrestleMania.
Well, at least we can skip the Hall of Fame this year because neither of us is interested in seeing them induct a false version of the New World Order.
Right. Oh, and Jesus Christ, did Mark Henry pay those announcers off or something? Did he slip them something to say you've got to say my name no less than 47 times during the show? I haven't heard Mark Henry's name mentioned that much since the 90s. Did you catch that too? It seemed like every time everybody has, Mark Henry had something to say about everybody, and it was getting, it was obnoxious. It was truly annoying.
Well, I personally think that Mark Henry's obnoxious and annoying anyway. But
well, I liked him in the 90s. I loved his House of Pain gimmick. But I don't know what the hell he did. If he slipped them money or if he got some direction, because isn't he a Hall of Famer this year? He's being inducted this year or something? No, he's a 2-time Hall of Famer because he's in Under the Nation too, isn't he?
He's already a Hall of Famer. I don't think the Nation was ever inducted though, were they?
I thought they were. I thought well, they're calling Mark Henry a 2-time nominee, 2-time Hall of Famer. How else could he have gotten in?
Are they really calling him a 2-time Hall of Famer?
Yeah, they said it multiple times.
Well, I think he's both a powerlifting and a WWE Hall of Famer. I don't think he's a 2-time WWE Hall of Famer, though.
Okay, maybe that's it. But they kept calling him a 2-time Hall of Famer. But the only other way, and I don't know I'm not sure. I mean, outside of that 3-year House of Pain run that he had, there's nothing that I would have given Mark Henry a Hall of Fame career for. He had a 2 to 3 year run on SmackDown during his House of Pain gimmick. Otherwise,
but really, if you're a former WWE champion, you should be inducted into the Hall of Fame at some point.
yeah, I guess. I mean, I guess I can see that. I don't know. I never felt like he had. It's for me a Hall of Fame, and this goes for all sports. If you're not, and that's why I've never been a proponent for Mark McGuire to be in the Hall of Fame either, is because I just don't feel like unless you were the best at your position at any given time during your career, that you should be considered a Hall of Famer. And I never felt like Mark Henry was the best part of any show. I felt like that House of Pain gimmick he had from 06 to 09 was fantastic. But I never felt like he was the best part of even SmackDown, much less all of WWE at that time. So for me, I don't feel. But then again, I also don't feel like Coco Beware should be a Hall of Famer either. So.
No, but it was fun to sit next to my wife and while we were actually at that Hall of Fame and have her laugh at Frankie pooping on the stage or on the podium.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess I can see that then. But yeah,
but no, I totally agree with you that Coco did not deserve to be there.
There's a lot of people throughout that don't. I mean,
JBL reportedly set for WWE Hall of Fame induction
this year. See, there too. There's another guy who, as great a career as he had, he was the only part of the Bradshaws.
If you're going to tell me he wasn't the best part of SmackDown for his run with the title, then you're out of your mind.
I'll
say he was the best part of SmackDown.
Oh yeah, he was. I'll give him that credit. I'll give him credit after he won the belt from Eddie. Or did he win the belt from Eddie, or did Eddie win it from him? Because Brock left. They needed that top flight heel to take over SmackDown, and that ended up being JBL, who was lights out for a year and a half. And that match against Eddie was just. I still don't know how much blood Eddie lost that night. Okay, I'll give him.
That is so weird for them. I don't understand why JBL would be inducted this year along with Batista and the NWO. He should be inducted at some point in Texas or New York. That's where you really those are his two kind of hometowns. I don't know why he'd be inducted in Tampa and kind of be like a third tier guy. Honest, because he was the. For years and years, he had the record for being the SmackDown champion.
And if Batista is at that level of Hall of Fame, then absolutely JBL should be, because even during Batista's rise on Raw, and JBL was the best part of SmackDown.
It has also been reported that the British Bulldog, the Bella Twins, and Jushin Thunder Liger are expected to join the Hall of Fame class. The Bella Twins.
And Jushin. Jushin's a Hall of Famer, but in order to be in the WWE Hall of Fame, you should have wrestled at least a year in the WWE. Did Jushin even wrestle a match in the WWE ever?
He did in NXT, but not in WWE proper.
Yeah, he had one match in NXT.
He might have had some dark matches in WWE. I think he probably did, actually.
I mean,
but yeah, I don't.
It's bad
one
enough.
Year is kind of arbitrary.
It's bad enough that we're.
They've adapted other guys that have never been in WWE ever that were like in the 40s and 50s. So.
Yeah, which is another issue I have, but whatever. We're talking WWE, and I just don't even want to. I'm so irritated at NXT right now that I can't even function.
What do we want to move on to AEW Dynamite then?
Can we get off WWE? Yes, we can move on.
I don't usually get off on WWE, no.
You and I talked about Dynamite, and again, I don't understand why they save their backstage segments for the split-screen commercial breaks. That makes no sense to me. I'm not a fan go into commercial period, but I I don't want to tell them to go to commercial during breaks.
Well, I can't speak to that because I didn't watch it live. I watched it a couple of days later on the app, so I have no idea when they went to what they did during commercial break.
After Nia won the belt, they followed her backstage, and she had conversations with basically the entire women's division, and then also with Kenny. And it looked like the conversation she was having with Kenny was something that we should have heard on the air. Because Kenny's, training partner or whatever had just gotten beat, and she, he went to shake her hand, and she just cut some kind of promo on him, and we couldn't hear her, so I have no clue what was said.
That kind of sucks.
And then coming out of that commercial break was.
I wonder if they show any of that kind of stuff on Dark, because we don't watch Dark, but I wonder if they show any of that kind of stuff on Dark, so we see what actually was transpired or continued, or what was actually said in those backstage segments.
I mean, I know I've especially been really critical about them going to commercial break during matches, but I'm a little more okay with them going. It's better than I would rather have them do the split screen during a match, because then I can still at least enjoy the psychology of the match just by watching it split screen. At least we're not going to a commercial break where we cut out the middle of the match and then come back and are like, well, what the hell just happened? So I know, if they're going to go to commercial and do the split screen, do it during the middle of a match. Don't do it or after a match when the Young Bucks are just playing around with the crowd, or something like that. Don't do it when somebody's cutting a promo. Stay live and go afterwards, or do a better job of timing your damn outs so that we can actually hear these backstage segments.
Agreed. I mean, I think it's kind of cool in a sense, because we can kind of see them go backstage, and we see what kind of looks like back there. Them walking around, interacting. Time, do something so we can hear and see what's going on. We can hear what's going on as well as see what's going on.
Them walking to let's just say they did it this way. Nyla Rose, they follow her. She walks to the back. She, walks to her locker. She sits down, puts a towel over her head. Maybe some people come up and pat her on the back and then congratulate her, and you just see her saying thank you or whatever. That's fine. Do something like that. Don't have her cut promos. Because you're having her cut promos, and I'm assuming the audience in the arena at least gets to hear her promos. But here we are trying to build up this women's division, or just any of the majority of these wrestlers we're trying to build up. And outside of 6, 7, maybe 10 of the roster, the rest of these people really need to connect with the fans at home. The best way to do that is through their promo work. So when you're trying to get Nyla over as some, cocky, just horrible beast of a woman, and you've got Kenny, who is really kind of taken, Pac's promo itself kind of called out Kenny, saying that he's not what he was. So when you're trying to get that stuff over, it makes it difficult when people can't hear what they're saying.
Right. Another thing that I really, I loved this episode of Dynamite. I really did. I thought it was fantastic. One of the best ones they've done. But I do want to just comment on a negative that I had, which was simply that, we saw a great tag team title match between the former champions and the current champions. And, my complaint the previous week was, well, we just saw the Lucha Brothers pin the tag team champions, and yet it's the former champions that are getting the first title match. And I hate, that automatic rematch thing anyway. But now we're going to have them get the first title shot instead of the team that just beat them. Well, now they've set it up for next week, for this tomorrow night now. But the following week, now the Lucha Brothers are getting their tag team title shot Unfortunately, they're also doing a battle royal with all the other tag teams to decide who gets a title shot at the next show. Why? They still have an undefeated number one contender team in the PNP. So why are they not getting the next title shot instead of this battle royal to determine the champion, which we know is going to end up being the Young Bucks because of the story they've been telling with the Young Bucks and Hangman and Omega. So why? So I really don't understand this whole thing. I mean, we talked about the rankings before. You don't think they should have them at all. I kind of like the idea of having rankings, but I really want them to mean something. And I don't see how when you're having a tag team battle royal featuring all the teams in the division that are not wrestling for the title the same night, how that really plays into the rankings whatsoever.
Well, it's, I've said it before, the rankings are dead to me as soon as they start doing fatal four-ways and mini tournaments and battle royals. The rankings are, you see in their records. Oh, did I just lose you? Sound like you got unplugged there. Did you get unplugged?
I did. I'm back now.
I love the overall ranking, or not the overall rankings, but the records, them showing their overall and their year-to-date records. I like that. I like when those records kind of come into play, but I think the ranking system needs to go. And guys, I know this has been a negative show, and a lot of it's because I'm pissed off at NXT, but AEW was another fantastic show. Absolutely fantastic. We had great matches. We had great storytelling. I had those two negatives, but that was it. I didn't even mind JR in this, but then again, I haven't been as critical of JR as you have. With the exception of their whole ranking system and the going to commercial break during backstage segments, I did not have an issue with this show at all. We even talked about the Jeff Cobb introduction.
I was actually going to ask you about the ending of the show because, you had been critical about them ending some of their shows on segments, and technically, this show ended on a segment, but it preceded a really good match before it.
Well,
so where did you come down? First of all, on them ending in a segment, and secondly, on the segment that it actually took place.
I guess maybe I should clarify that. I didn't view this as a segment. A segment to me is when a guy has a microphone and he heads out for the ending of the show and they cut a promo and it ends up being some brawl or some guy smashing. That to me is a segment. Or like what happened 2 weeks ago or was it last week? 2 weeks ago now with the whipping of Cody. To me that was a segment. This was a match and its aftermath. So as far as I'm concerned, this was a match. And you and I have talked about this before, that one thing we do miss about the old 90s style wrestling is the ending of the night on some beatdown in the ring on somebody. The way the NWO used to come out and beat everybody up as they were going to commercial break, or as they were ending the show. I don't have a problem with that at all. And as far as Jeff Cobb goes, now, do I think that maybe Jeff Cobb coming in as a babyface and helping Moxley would have been a better idea? Yes, because right now we've got the Inner Circle and nobody opposing them. A couple individuals, Dustin, you've got Darby Allin, who you said has that match against Sammy and John Moxley, but otherwise it's the Inner Circle who's a faction and just getting stronger, running roughshod on the entire roster. So I think, that personally was a kind of a misstep, but the way they did it, I know you don't really want a guy like Jeff Cobb coming in and just picking apart the bones, but considering the fact that Jericho announced him as being basically a new member of the Inner Circle in a promo earlier in the night, I was okay with the way it ended.
Gotcha. Yeah, my big issue was basically, you and I know who Jeff Cobb is, so it didn't matter to us as far as what he did to Moxley at the end. But how many of the national television audience don't know who Jeff Cobb is? And so to me, like, yeah, we got to see his great finishing move there, but I would have loved to see his first time coming out be more impressive than beating up a guy who just got punked by somebody else.
Oh, and that was.
But they were kind of treating him like he was a big name superstar that's nationally known, and he really isn't at this point in his career.
No, he's not. But I felt like the announcers really did a good job of getting him over. Not only, and I felt like Jericho did too in his interview, talking about his accomplishments. And I was a little disappointed we got a mini version of the Tour of the Islands. I would have rather had the full version where he throws him into the rope and everything. But I was okay. I was okay with it.
Yeah, I mean it's great to see Jeff Cobb there, and I don't believe he's actually signed with AEW, and I think he's still a free agent, but it's pretty awesome that he's there at all.
God, if he's a free agent and Ring of Honor let him go.
Because Jeff Cobb he's fantastic.
But if he's a free agent and Ring of Honor let another one of their guys go, it just more kudos, I guess, to Marty Scurll for going down with the ship. Because if they had a chance to re-sign a Jeff Cobb and they let him walk like they did with Punishment Martinez, like they did with all the AEW guys, you really couldn't. They really had no control over those guys. Those guys were going because they had their own thing starting. But if you look at all the names Ring of Honor has just let walk away over the last 2 years, it's really sad.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and it's not even the last 2 years. It's over the last how many years of their existence.
Well, I felt like they had a control when the Bucks re-signed, and I felt like they had control where some guys were re-signing, but they've had so much young talent that's gone on, and some places they thrived, other of them haven't. But like Punishment Martinez was a huge loss for them, and you had Keith Lee before that was a huge loss for them, and so many others. With Adam Cole and basically all of Undisputed Era, and just they've lost so many people over the last, especially 4 years, who are young, talented guys that they could have built their entire company around, and they just keep losing them. And now to see somebody like Jeff Cobb go too.
Yeah.
I mean, they're down to the Briscoes and Scurll and a heel Jonathan Gresham and Shane Taylor. Otherwise, I have no interest in anybody in that company. And that sucks because I was really starting to like Matt Haskins and Flip Gordon, Mark Haskins, yeah, and Flip Gordon, and even a part of me was starting to like Hot Sauce, and Bandito was amazing. Dragon Lee is another one. Well, Rio Lee is another one that's amazing, but they're not enough to draw me in. I love Marlon Reed and Brian Pillman. That's not enough to make me watch MLW either. I love Nick Aldis. It's not enough to make me watch NWA. I mean, hell, if
there's so much wrestling time to go over.
Hell, if AJ Styles wasn't enough to make me watch WWE, none of these guys are even going to compare.
That is another excellent point. So, yeah, I really like what they're doing with AEW right now. I love the promo once again by Pac. I love that they're doing these firsts. Giving away from free on national television to give people a chance to watch the brand, to get used to the brand, to like the brand. We got the first cage match in the history of the promotion coming up tomorrow night, and then a week from tomorrow night, we've got the first ever Iron Man match for the brand. And I've been pretty outspoken in not liking the 1 hour long or the half an hour long Iron Man matches, but I think if you're going to do it on a TV show, it makes a lot more sense than doing it on a pay-per-view. You don't want half of your 2 hour show to be one match. So.
The only time I didn't mind a 30-minute match on a pay-per-view was when it was Sasha and Bayley. I felt like that was an okay Iron Man match, but otherwise, I'm right there with you. An Iron Man match is an hour long, but if you're going to do it on TV, 30 minutes is fine. But
with these guys, I'm expecting it's not going to be anything more than 2 hours. Then it's probably going to be basically a 3-fall match.
Or it'll probably end up being, 1-1 with a tie. Let's Roderick Strong this. Or, not Roderick Strong, but Eddie Edwards and Christopher Daniels it. Have one guy bleeding so they can't continue. But and this is another thing. We
As long as they don't Jonathan Gresham and Jay Lethal, I'll be happy.
Oh dear God, worst match ever. That second worst match ever, because that Vampiro Crazy Steve match was the worst match ever. This was the second. That was the second worst match. But anyway, we talked about at the beginning of this year how we never gave Pac enough credit last year when it came to talking about Wrestler of the Year, and part of me really feels like we're not doing it again. Because when you and I talked about our the guys that are in the top of our top 5, top 10, whatever so far this year, his name wasn't mentioned. But again, every time he's gone out, he's put on a classic match. It's just a phenomenal match against whoever it is. He had that great one against Darby Allin. He had a great one against Moxley. He had every time he's out, and then he has these amazing promos in between his matches. When you look at
his match against Moxley was not great.
No, but it wasn't for a TV match. It wasn't horrible. It was also on a boat. You got to give them a little credit. They were on a boat.
Yeah, but you and I were both disappointed with that one. So I'm not going to let you get away with saying it was great.
All right. Well, it was good for being on a boat. Let's put it that way. But regardless, he's had great matches time and time again. He's had great promo work. I would put him right up at the top spot up there with Ospreay so far this year. Because really, Ospreay is untouchable in the ring, but we haven't really seen a whole lot of promo work out of Ospreay, which we're not going to get in New Japan. Pac is giving us great matches and great promos.
Yeah, I suppose if you want to go with a complete wrestler in that way, but to me, I'm looking more at what I'm seeing in the ring when I'm
wrestler of the year. There's nobody above Ospreay.
So to me, it's still Ospreay.
Yeah, there's nobody above Ospreay in that sense of the word. But Ospreay, White, and probably Pac for me would be my top 3 right now. Hard pressed to find anybody different.
And speaking of Will Ospreay, congratulations, Will, for being the brand new NJPW British Heavyweight Champion.
Yeah, I'm really disappointed I didn't get to see that match. I looked everywhere for it. I looked everywhere for it.
And I did purposely say NJPW British Heavyweight Champion because sure, technically it's the RPW title, but RPW is basically just like a minor league for NJPW these days.
Is Sabre and Suzuki still the tag team champions there?
I don't believe so because I'm pretty sure Kevin Kelly called them the former champions at Wrestle Kingdom.
Okay, I didn't. It's possible. I guess I didn't hear that. All I know is that the last time I was able to actually watch a Rev Pro show was an amazing promo cut by ZSJ, which is another. That's one thing that bothers me about New Japan is you've got some of these guys that are just absolutely astonishing on the mic, like ZSJ, like Naito is another guy who I've heard some of his promos, and even though they're not in English, I'm just mesmerized by what the guy's saying. I just wish that they had a little more promo work with them, but I kind of get it. I get why they don't, because they come off more as like a real wrestling or as a real sports product than anywhere in the United States does.
Right. And that's actually, it's kind of funny that you mentioned that because I actually had a meeting with our vice president of dental today, and I talked about how I sometimes stay up late to watch New Japan, pro wrestling, and she asked, well, why do you prefer that to something like WWE? And I said, basically that it's more realistic. It's presented more like a sport. So.
Well, yeah, and it's actually they let the talented people be talented. That's the main reason I enjoy it. And that's also the reason why I enjoy AEW too, is because they let the talented people be really, really talented in the ring. And AEW brings more of an American style to it, where they also allow them to be talented on the mic.
Indeed, they do.
And that tag match, This is the kind of Hangman that I want to see, is what we saw in this tag match, where he's not feuding with any of his partners and any of the elite or any of that. It's just him being him and letting Kenny be Kenny. I still think their finisher is probably one of the best out there with that buckshot lariat V-trigger combo. And so
Yeah,
happy.
I mean, it's basically a concerto, just using awesome offensive moves instead of chairs.
And it was so nice not to see the same SCU match we've seen every week since the beginning of the year.
And that's very true as well. You know, and this one, it was Kazarian was the star for the team rather than
Sky.
Rather than Scorpio Sky. You know, and I said this before, I'm going to say it again here. You know, I love what they're doing with Hangman Page right now. You know, I love his current character. I love that he's basically become the embodiment of that old Stone Cold Steve Austin phrase, which was, you know, arrive, raise hell, leave.
Right.
You know, he doesn't care about, once the match is over, he's going to go through the crowd, he's going to grab a drink, he's going to do his thing, and, you know, he'll catch back up with his boy later on. But once that match is over, he's out of there, and he's going to make his own way out of there through the crowd.
Yeah, I like his character too.
I enjoy the hell out of what they're doing with.
I really like his character too, and I like the way that he plays off Kenny. I think he and Kenny make a great team. I miss seeing Kenny as a singles wrestler, but we still get to see Kenny Omega every single week on TV. That's something that I said this last year when AEW started up and we had that run out of Kenny to begin their TV time. But people in America are finally starting to get to see what you and I have been bragging about for the last 4 years. Is there to be able to see a guy of Kenny Omega's talent every single week? People should relish that. Because regardless of whatever slump they say he's on, regardless of whatever whatever gimmick they're playing right now, when you watch that guy in the ring, even in a tag match, it's pure poetry. Everything he does means something. I haven't seen anybody that's been that since probably Kurt Angle when he first went to TNA. That's that precise and that smooth in the ring, where everything he does means something, even if it's just like he shakes his head. Every movement that he does is either foreshadowing or means something, and it's such a rare treat to watch.
Yeah, and I see what you're saying about wishing he was a single star, but to me it's really more that I'm looking forward to him becoming a single star again, and I'm just enjoying what he's doing right now.
It's impossible not to.
Because really what he's doing right now, in a sense, is what he wanted to do when he was the NJPW, the IWGP Heavyweight Champion. You know, I mean, they went to him. And he said, "Well, I really want to be in my team with Ibushi," and they're like, well, we really wanted to book you as the world champion. He kind of like took a bullet for them, and then eventually left after he dropped the strap. But I mean, he's kind of doing now with Page what he wanted to do a year and a half ago with Ibushi. So I'm kind of happy for him that he's able to take a little bit of a back seat, to have some fun in a tag team, and then at some point he'll get back to the top where he's at the top of the promotion as a single star. But just let Kenny's talent shine through no matter what he's doing, because he can do anything in the professional wrestling.
Do you know the other thing that Kenny's doing that isn't really getting probably the credit it deserves? Ever since AEW started, they've been trying to elevate Hangman Page to that level where he's believable against a guy like Chris Jericho. They couldn't do it. Just his tag team and association and being in these stellar matches.
Well, let's be a little bit fair about that. One reason they couldn't do it is because Pac they weren't able to get Pac on board for their first pay-per-view.
Right. Well, and that's true. And he ended up being that battle royal, and it wasn't well done. But there's really not much they could have done, I guess. But the reality is he is now, by association of being in there, and whether whether they continue this storyline of him losing his guts or with Kenny or not, he's still in there with the best wrestler on the planet, and it's elevating him in a way that I don't think that they could have done without having him in the tag team.
Agreed. Kenny's being used the way he should be used right now. Hangman's getting over like crazy, and we'll see where the storyline goes. But I mean, eventually, this is going to put both guys right back in that singles top role, in my opinion.
Yeah, they'll
at some point the tag team's going to split up. At some point, Pac will, Page will either beat Omega or come very close to beating him and get the rub from, or almost beating, the best professional wrestler on the planet.
And he's getting that rub. He's getting that rub just by being in a tag team and holding his own. I mean, he's in there. It's not like we've been watching SCU for the last 3 years, and Scorpio Sky has always been the focal point. Even though Frankie Kazarian is there and more talented, Scorpio Sky has been getting the focal point. We're in a tag team now where Kenny is so good at what he does, and he gets love constantly from the crowd and from the announcers, but he's really being overshadowed by Hangman Page. That's going to elevate Page in a way that nothing else could. They're being portrayed as two guys on the same level, and when you're being portrayed as somebody on the same level as Kenny Omega, with how great Kenny Omega is, that it's just like, I bring back to Kurt Angle. Everybody that was ever associated with Kurt Angle was elevated because of it. Whether it was as an opponent or a partner, I mean, you look at all the people. Brock Lesnar is a freak of nature. Brock Lesnar, I don't think, would have been anything more than a freak of nature had it not been for his run in 2002 with Kurt Angle.
A freak of nature.
Well, he is.
Interesting way to phrase that.
Well, he is. He just is. But you look at Haas and Benjamin. They benefited. Jericho benefited. Jericho is now at that level where he's able to elevate other people too. Well, he has been for years, but
you don't get to talk about Haas and Benjamin tonight. You had your chance to talk about Haas and Benjamin tonight, and you decided not to watch the show we were going to cover.
It's not that I decided not to. My life decided to take it away from me. Is what the problem was. I watched half of it. Which,
I'm just messing with you.
Which actually made me really, really happy because I had just gotten done watching the NXT main event. And I immediately turned on Honor Takes Center Stage Night 2. And the first match I got was a young kid, Adam Cole. And then the third match I got was a very young Tommaso Ciampa. And it was really interesting to watch those two right after I watched what they are today.
I bet it was.
It was something that it was just like it was a lot of fun. It was something that I would recommend to anybody is to do something like that. Go back and watch a match of guys that we see today, and then go back to 10 years, 10, 11 years ago, 9 years ago, whatever it was, and watch them when they were just young pups.
Especially those two guys in particular, because they are unrecognizable. If you go back and if the announcers weren't there, if the announcement wasn't made who these guys were, if you watched Adam Cole in 2011, you watched Tommaso Ciampa in 2011, you would have no idea they're the same guys.
Ciampa especially. Ciampa is he's got a different body. He's got hair on his top of his head, not on his face. He doesn't even wrestle the same. Adam Cole, you still see a little bit of what Adam Cole is now. He does still have some of the mannerisms, but Ciampa is a completely different person.
Yeah, I mean, eventually you might look at it and go, oh wait, is that Adam Cole? A bit into the match, but I mean, if you just actually. But I mean, I'm saying like if you just like looking at his body style and his face, and he does not look at the same guy at all.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't look like and it must have been like 2-3 years later because it was about his Bullet Club days that he started to become what we see now. But yeah, he's not recognizable when you just look at him. Ciampa, there's nothing about Ciampa other than his name. He wrestles completely different styles. He doesn't have a signature move yet. He doesn't he doesn't have the same mannerisms. He's more vocal, which is weird. He's got hair on the top of his head and nothing on his face. It's just he's a completely different looking guy, inside the ring and out.
Absolutely. So, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Do you want to tell me where they can listen to us at?
Yeah, guys, you're currently hopefully listening to us on both Spreaker and lordsofpainradio.net and also YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button, like button, notification bell, because we do this live thing on YouTube a minimum of twice a week. Tonight for Kingdom of Honor, tomorrow night for Dynamite After Dark, immediately following AEW's Dynamite on TNT. And check out our Patreon page. We won't be having a show this week, but we do put one up weekly. That's exclusive for Patreon members. That's patreon.com/Kingdom of Honor. And our also be sure to check out our Twitters. I'm at Reggie Co-op. He's at ZanmanLOP. Use hashtag KOH and hashtag DAD for everything we put up there.
Wow, that's probably the quickest you've ever done that. Crazy.
I'm getting it down finally.
Make sure you stay tuned to all the other LOP radio shows. Tomorrow night we'll be back with you with Dynamite After Dark. On Thursday is LOP Radio Adventure. On Friday is NWA Power, the Legacy Series. And we'll be back with you next Tuesday with more Kingdom of Honor, but I have no idea what we're covering. I'm not sure what's going on in the wrestling world this coming week, actually. So we'll figure it out.
That'll be an interesting show. Maybe we could do like we do all the time and not talk about anything. And be really distracted the whole time.
Well, you especially will be.
All right. Yeah,
that's all we've got. We'll try to do better next time. This is Shane saying long days, pleasant nights, and Jeff saying his usual stick of...
You know, I'm going to change it. Adios.
Well, you bitched last night about me messing up your usual stick.
You know what? Adios. That's what I'm saying now. It's now adios. No more goodbye for any of you. It's adios.